Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. This is The Next Reel, everybody. I'm Pete Wright, and that there is Andy Nelson.
Hey, hey, hey.
And we spoil movies. Tonight on the show, if we get lucky, we just might break the bank. We're back with the whole crew and Pacino, too, in Ocean's 13.
This is a night people will talk about as long as it's in Las Vegas. I got the hottest new hotel on the strip.
Okay, then. Where's the partner's desk gonna be?
Oh, no partner's desk. You're out.
What are you gonna do, throw me off the roof?
Well, I don't want to.
He hurt Ruben. I know what that makes me want to do.
I don't care if it gets messy.
I'll drive you, get him leaving his barber.
And I'll inject him.
And I'll find a spot to get rid of the body.
All valid ideas. Great initiative. But
it's a reverse big store.
doesn't matter if we win, as long as the casino loses.
Which means that we have to rig craps, blackjack, slots, and roulette, all in our favor.
Jeez, could you make it any more complicated?
Andy, I feel like you're bringing the hate, but I may be misreading the notes. You use some language that I'm not real fond of. It's a little sarcastic
trash,
in the notes.
garbage, like those notes, those words.
I may, but I want to make sure I'm not misinterpreting them. Ridiculous. There are things with a lot of question mark, exclamation point patterns. that scare me a little bit?
It's all context. So let's take those when we get there.
Okay. All right. Ocean's 13, for me, was a redemptive film after Ocean's 12. It was a refreshing bath in a mountain spring. I felt renewed. I felt like the setup of bringing in Al Pacino as the new modern gangster who has shunned all the old ways, who shook hands with Sinatra and didn't care about that, was a great addition. And I felt like this movie went back to basics in a way that I found deeply satisfying in spite of a few troublesome flaws in the movie that we'll get to. Overall, this was a very positive experience. Now you.
It is my least favorite of the three.
Oh, good God. Good God, man.
It really feels like they went back to the boredom of the first film and added some extra ridiculousness to it that I really struggled with. That being said, Pete, they're all kind of on par with each other. They're all kind of fair to middling films. And I don't dislike it. I think it's a very fun film to watch. Absolutely. But in context of the other three, it is my least favorite of the bunch. But yeah, they're all kind of right in that same range. So it's really hard to judge it too much negatively differently than I would have the other two, because I kind of have the same issues that I've had all along with the whole franchise.
What'd you say? I had you on mute.
You.
I'm a riot. Look, I feel like that, and this was brought up in the Discord this week. I have come to realize that you are not meant for heist movies.
No, absolutely not true.
I think that's true. I really do.
Garbage.
I think you have
garbage.
You have thrown away your credibility with heist movies. That's what's happened here.
No,
You've decided I don't want to be known as a guy
series
who can watch heist movies. I just don't want to be that guy, and I'm going to carry all that baggage.
You believe what
I'm
you
going
need
to go
to
to
believe.
2001.
You believe what you need to believe to get yourself through the night.
I just
know
have
it's
to get
hard
through
for
the next
you
hour
to say
God.
Andy doesn't think it's a 5-star film.
I just want Andy to agree with me on this one, and it hurts my heart. This is not the best of them. I still think that Ocean's 11 was the best of them, but this was definitely a reprieve from that piece of junk in the middle, and we don't need to go there again. That was, whew. I had to change
Piece of junk that you rated 3
that.
stars. So I don't think it's junk.
No. I definitely, I regret that, especially after watching Ocean's 13 and realizing what a different film that is. I am deeply in need of re-ranking Ocean's 12 as a result, and so I may just do that. I regret the 3-star. That was too high. I think I was because I started with 2.5, and you rated it 3, right?
1.5.
Oh, you were 3.5. Oh no, I need to knock some stars. Those stars are valuable, and I need to use them on other movies.
You do what you want on your own flick chart.
I don't
mind.
I have the password. I'll change stuff.
Oh yeah.
Look.
Is that where we're coming to?
Okay.
Wow, the whole chart
all right.
is going to
So
get
I guess
re-ranked.
the thing that you have the most trouble with, what is the thing that if you were to identify the thing that sinks this movie, and you can't just say you were bored, because No.
And I think you're asking a question in an unfair way, because I don't think anything sinks the movie. Like I said, it's not a bad movie. It's very fun. It's very light. It's very jovial. As I said last time, it's very zesty. It fits in the franchise completely. I do have a fun time watching it. It's just not my favorite of the bunch. I think that it goes back to the first film and it becomes very kind of expected. It does some different stuff with how they're trying to, steal all this money from Al Pacino's character Bank, because of the way that he treated one of them. So it kind of is a revenge story. They've changed kind of their motivations in each of the films, which is
It's
fine.
not kind of. It is. It's a revenge story.
Yeah,
It's not kind of. It's not a namby-pamby like, no, they
it's
made a choice. It's an
It's a
opinionated
revenge
movie.
story like the previous one is a family reunion, and like the previous one before that is a chance to get back with your wife. Those are all kind of an element of the story that is kind of their driving force, but largely they're heist movies, right? I mean, that's really what it's all about. This one, I think they took a lot of the elements that were fun in the previous two, and they really amped it up for me to a point where it kind of crossed a line into ridiculousness. And I think that's where I run into more issues with this one. It's still fun, but I feel like they almost were making a parody of themselves by the time they got to this one with some of the silliness that they were using.
I just don't have a problem with that silliness. And there was some stuff. Okay, I have a problem with some of the silliness. I would like to catalog the silliness that I have trouble with. May I?
Well, yeah, sure.
There are other things I have problems with, the silliness in particular. The silliness with the Greco player detector computer.
Oh, yes.
I have a problem with that. It sounds like you did too.
Absolutely. It was, not only was the whole ploy silly and just designed to basically lock Bank up in the basement while they pulled the heist, it was pretty nonsensical, but also, I mean, and I like Julian Sands, but I don't know, just the way that his character was written was just, it almost was just absurdist. It just seemed like nobody is ever going to buy into this whole thing. It just was so dumb.
Yeah, for me, the problem was that they could have just let the AI be the computer, right? The AI be the antagonist here, like the element that they had to fool. They could have kept everything the same. You could have lifted Julian Sands right out of the room and not make it, such a human-driven part of the film, and because he didn't add anything. He didn't add any level of intensity or threat or anything beyond what the AI was doing already. That was the way it was set up in the very beginning, and that it's the system that's the threat, and adding Julian Sands did not elevate that even a little bit for me. So
I completely agree.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would change is the fact that it still is like this stupid failsafe that like locks him in. It's like, seriously? That was so unbelievably bad as far as a way out for the scriptwriters to complete the heist. Let's just lock him in so that they can finish their heist. That was eye-rollingly bad.
I agree with you there. The lock-in was silly. I do kind of like that it was a gold Samsung phone that did it.
Well, that was kind of fun.
That branding was so weird.
Yeah, that his ego like did that, but still, it's just such a stretch for me.
Yeah, it was a stretch for me too, and I feel like you're right. It was lazy. It was just lazy writing, and I feel like they could have come up with something that would have achieved the same purpose in a way that wasn't, as you say, eye-rollingly bad. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
So that was silly. The other thing that's silly that I don't have a problem with, and I imagine you do, is the nose. Is the whole Cougar Ellen Barkin, Linus puts on the nose, takes on the character, the Gilroy, that whole bit. I let that go, and I think that is a controversial position.
It is so frustratingly awful. The whole fact that they've got this magic potion that, he wafts, he puts on and wafts in the air, and she's just like, she can't control herself. So ridiculous. The fact that something like that would exist is just terrible. I couldn't buy into that at all. The nose, I think, is just a dumb element of that. The fact that they want to play it, I think it ends up just being funny because you have to look at Matt Damon with this silly nose the whole time, which is completely ridiculous. But it's really the least of my problems. Largely, it's just this completely unbelievable idea that somebody's come up with this love potion that makes her
it's
fall
pheromones,
so far.
man.
Yeah, but come on, in a way that's believable. There's nothing believable about what they do with it here. It's so dumb to see her completely fall head over heels to a point of absurdity, and it ruins that entire part of the story for me.
It doesn't ruin it for me, but I get your point, and I'm not going to fight you on that because I recognize I'm in a precarious position myself, but there is a position to take that she is that as a result of lampooning her, by making her take on this role of essentially subservient to smell, and this sort of hyper sexualization as a result that makes her, so easy of a con. That's not a very kind way to write this character, and I think this movie it definitely plays fast and loose with the with writing solid women characters. There just aren't any of them anymore.
Well, yeah. I mean, Julia Roberts and Catherine Zeta-Jones both refused to continue with the series if they didn't get significant parts in the plot. And so they didn't. And so they didn't end up in the film. And they were written out really awkwardly at the beginning. And like you said, Ellen Barkin, who, man, do I just love seeing in this film, and her and Al Pacino reunited after A Sea of Love. It was just so great seeing them on screen together. And
Yes.
it made me really miss seeing Ellen Barkin because I always enjoyed her. Like there was that period in the late 80s, early 90s that she was in a number of films that I was really enjoying. And I wish that she was offered more parts because I always liked her. And you're right. It's such a poorly written female character. And this is how they use her. She could have been really like the brains behind this operation. And it could have created a really interesting challenge for the guys. And instead, it's like, she's just dumped. And it's just so frustrating.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that is the thing I think that's most heartbreaking about her character, is that it was a character with promise. That I feel like as you say, she could have been the brains. You could have done something really smart with her at the end and still find a way to take advantage of her as, or use her in some way to get those jewels, whatever the case. You could have done it. And instead they wrote it as this, they wrote it slapstick. And I wasn't crazy about that.
Well, and that is largely my issue with most of the other elements of the film. And I'm guessing that those were kind of it as far as the silly points for you.
Those were it for the silly points, yeah.
But I feel like largely everything else that I have problems with is because it kind of turns the comedy, which I thought had been really strong in the previous films, to more of this slapstick style. I think it's kind of funny that the Malloys get themselves caught up in this Mexican revolt, but it also starts feeling a little slapsticky. The tunnel, when they're digging this tunnel under Vegas, that starts feeling really slapsticky to me. The whole concept is just kind of so Scooby-Doo. It seems so silly that that's actually what they're doing. I know I'm saying that after they pulled this random electronic device into the first film to shut down Vegas. But still, at least I felt that was more believable.
Yeah, and lest we forget, they actually lifted a villa,
right, 12.
So.
No, right. I mean, they're doing plenty of ridiculous things in the films, but for some reason, the tunnel thing just seems so silly, and the fact that they had to the first one breaks and they get a whole second one. It just it got so corny. I actually really like all of the stuff involved in the heist, and I think that's largely what I end up enjoying most about all of these films is I think they make a lot of the heist stuff really fun, except when it comes to the Ellen Barkin material, except when it comes to Al Pacino in the basement. I love all of the stuff of them, changing the dice out. I love Bernie Mac and his secret little, domino game that he's got going on. There are a lot of fun things that they're doing throughout. And so I do enjoy quite a bit. It's just, I feel like it devolves into this strange comedy that they just, maybe I should say that they've been moving toward as the series has progressed.
And that's where we disagree. I don't feel like this is the end of a particular journey toward chaos. I feel like it's a bounce back from nutdom in 12, but there are some elements that are troublesome. I'd like your take on David Paymer as the, he is the representative of the Five Diamonds. He was there to rate the hotel and give Bank yet another of these prestigious awards for top quality hotels. And he felt like he was a shoo-in. They send Paymer in, and the crew takes advantage of Paymer and inflicts upon him hotel horrors that I should say have been in my mind since. Like I've never carried a black light into a hotel room, but I think about it.
needless to say, it's probably a good place to plug your other podcast that you have.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough
about all these horrible things that you have fears of, because absolutely, it is horrifying. I love David Paymer. I actually think he's really funny in this role. I think he is the perfect schlub to play a character like this in this film. It makes me like these guys less because of what they do to him. I mean, they put him through the ringer in some of the most horrible ways that I feel so bad for the guy. Yes, it's stuff he'll recover from, but really, I mean, it's just terrible that he has to go through it. And only by, the grace of the movie gods does he have a chance of redemption in that last shot, which is, it's movie silliness, but
I don't think it is. I think it was planned. I think it was absolutely planned. I think that they had somehow planned that.
I don't buy that at all.
I totally think you're wrong.
No. Well, see, again,
I don't think that's the thing. I don't think these guys are bad guys. I think that's the whole point. I believe they go into this knowing they're going to take advantage of somebody and feeling like that he needs to get paid. So I give him that grace.
Well, and honestly, I mean, it's because it's Brad Pitt who's doing it first. I mean, sure, I guess I buy into it, but that's going back to what I said last time. These movies have created this place for these stories where I don't trust anything in these films. I find everything suspect that happens, because it's like, they've made it where everything kind of is like, nothing is real. It's all part of the scam. And it just gets to a place where, like, by the time they're introducing the FBI guy, I'm like, well, of course he's not an FBI guy. They've taken that away from me. There's no fun in any of those surprises anymore.
I remember back, I don't remember what the movie was, but it was at some point you had locked your inner child in a closet under the stairs. I think he's there now. I think your inner child is locked
Star Wars.
up.
It was the new Star Wars before
you were afraid.
Force Awakens came out. And then the trailer broke him free.
It did. It broke him free. I'm sad that these movies have put him back there.
No, my Ocean's child is firmly locked away and always will be.
Haven't fed him in many moons. Okay, well, I feel like Paymer was a fun character. I really enjoyed him in this movie. I love what they put him through, and I love that he gets paid in the end. That feels like a satisfying arc to me, and I let go of the other movie god stuff. It feels good. Let's go back to the Malloys, though, shall we? And sending one of the Malloys to Mexico. Does that work for you? The whole Zapata labor uprising bit? It's
funny. I mean, I do think it's pretty funny that it goes to that length, and they're doing this just to get these dice made. I mean, it stretches the limits of believability. Like the first one did a pretty good job keeping mostly feeling pretty possible. But as the series has progressed, it's gotten to a point where nothing seems feasible. And I mean, the chance that they go through for all these things, I mean, it's like a 0.00001% chance that all of these pieces that they're putting into place are actually going to fall right for them. I find it such a stretch, but it is fun. I do enjoy seeing Casey Affleck joining up with this Mexican Union revolt. I think it's actually quite funny. And it's nice for a brief time, at least, seeing them kind of split up. But again, it does get a little silly, but it is one of my more favorite parts of the film.
Well, I actually like it on revisiting more. Going into it, I found myself thinking, I think I'm going to be frustrated by this because, I was so frustrated by splitting up the team in Ocean's 12. And in this case, it's for a much shorter time than I had remembered, and it ends up being a really funny element for me. And I love when they get back together, and their security bit with Paymer is fantastic. When they're trying to tell him that he's gone nose deaf, is one of the funniest scenes in the movie. So I really enjoy their work together. Again, in this film, they're fantastic.
Well, and to the point of the employees, as far as like the Mexican revolutionaries and the revolt, I think that's another stretch. The fact that the brother of the guy that Affleck is working with conveniently also works at the hotel. And man, is it me or is it just super easy for anyone, including half of our team here, to get jobs working for this casino? And man, like half of his other employees seem perfectly willing to stab him in the back. It's just like, boy, this bank guy must be hated largely and have a really poor hiring team, because it's just...
It's funny. I never actually felt like they were... well, I know... So we know how... the Domino's got in there, and he's there representing the Domino's. Bernie Mac, Frank. Frank's there representing, so that's how he got in. The other guys, like the Malloys, I always sort of imagined that they got in. They just ended up getting uniforms. That they didn't actually work there, that they were just pretending.
Well, that's entirely possible, but I feel like there were some other people who, like who else did I think had
like
jobs?
Roman is in there. He works for the Shuffle Company. He has a uniform for the Shuffle Company.
And Livingston is the guy who's fixing the card dispensers. Right,
with Roman.
Yeah.
I didn't have as much of a problem with that.
That's a minor issue. It's something that I rolled my eyes out a little bit as I was watching. I was like, God, anybody can get a job with bank.
Yeah.
for a guy who's pushing so hard at getting a 5-star diamond or 5 diamond thing or whatever it is.
Maybe he should turn that fancy computer on his HR problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and back to Livingston and his little card thing that he's futzing with all the time. Is it just me, or is he totally turning into the dad from Gremlins and making just like machinery that never works?
Yes.
It's like they take him down a really strange road where all of a sudden I'm like, this is the guy that they have on their team. He can't like do anything, and he's trying to make this thing and it's just spitting cards out, and I'm like, oh boy.
Well, that was the thing that he was having trouble. What are the other things that he made that didn't go right?
Well, that was it. Just that one.
Yeah, just that one.
But it's
right?
but that's the thing is like, he was always really good at coming up with this stuff. And then in this film, and this is like what we talked about with Linus last time, where they started him down this strange track, which they continue in this film. All of a sudden, Livingston, it's like, did he say as an actor, I want to do something, give me something else, because I feel like I'm just doing the same thing. And so this is kind of what they did with him. I don't know. I really struggled with that. Although I really like the bit where he's stepping on the tack. Like that part I thought was quite funny.
Yes, it was great. And, so here's my problem with Livingston. And I'm asking those questions just as a point of, just to be contrarian at this point. I don't even know. But I agree with you. And the challenge that I have is, once again, you could take Eddie Izzard out of this movie, and our original guys could do the job. Like he is a plot device to explain the heist in the beginning of the movie, in the first third of the movie. And then we don't really need him. We could find another way to get around that using one of the other characters without Eddie Izzard. Why is Eddie Izzard in this movie? Why do we need Roman Nagel?
Well, and that's, I think, going to, my theory last time is that, Ocean's 12, they added Julia Roberts to the team. 13. Okay. So they're adding Terry, and I guess Roman is helping them and I think it's largely because they were trying to say, okay, well, we've got to have a couple other people around. And I think that's largely why Roman's here.
That feels sloppy to me.
And like you said last time, you never really considered that as an element. And I think this is why, because if it was their intention, they're not doing a very good job of it.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And I like Eddie Izzard. I think he's a funny character. I think
absolutely.
He's great to watch. But again, having Eddie Izzard in here and using him this way, using Roman, the character, this way, deflates Livingston's role. And that I agree with you. We don't need him to be so slapstick. We don't actually need him to have that kind of trouble. We need him to be the damned expert. We need him to be the technologist who can get stuff done. And I feel like they deflated him there.
Yep.
All right. What'd you think of Cheadle's accent?
It's still weak, but it's grown on me. I guess it's one of those accents where I've heard it long enough where I'm like, you know what? I kind of like Cheadle with this terrible accent.
I haven't done it yet, but I need to go back and watch, his, when he's first sprung in Ocean's 11 to one of the drill scenes here, because I think his accent has changed. I think it's softened.
You do?
I really do. I think they gave up a little bit.
That's funny.
You want to talk about getting it made?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about this one other than it sounds like originally when they started working on it and they had all the gears moving, the whole plan was to shoot most of this film at the Wynn Las Vegas casino. And I guess things kind of shifted away from that for one reason or the other. And then I think Clooney wanted to shoot it at his upcoming Las Ramblas resort in Vegas, but it wasn't ready. And so then Warner Brothers decided we're going to shoot it in a fake casino on our stage. And that was pretty much the plan. Although they did end up going to film in Vegas at the Bellagio, I think early in the production and then late in the production. And then they also filmed a little bit at the Palazzo. So they did do some actual Vegas filming, but because it's this fictional casino that Bank has, they largely just decided they were going to build their own.
That hurt the film for me. I don't know. Maybe I was just a little heartsick, but it just felt it felt fake. It felt like a Vegas that was not grounded in Vegas because it was this crazy, bananas hotel.
Well, and that was part of it. It's like I really like the design of it. Like when we would see those shots of the city with that crazy like design of the hotel sticking up, I was like, it actually looks really cool. But I could never buy it as a real place because it always like everything seems like too crooked, and I don't know. There's not enough space to actually build anything inside, and I always struggled with the realities of it. As cool as it looked,
it's straight off a Coruscant. That's where it comes from.
Yes, it is.
So silly. All right. Well, shall we do the deep scene dive, Andy?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Let's do the deep scene dive. We're talking about the grand opening. This is a sequence right in the middle of the film that starts about an hour, 13:30. Title card, The Grand Opening. Here we have the crew executes the mechanics of the heist. All of the things they've been putting into place leading up to the heist itself. They're putting in place in the casino. They're switching out all the shuffling decks with Livingston's work, and we see Eddie Izzard in there helping to load and replace shuffling decks. We see them putting all the dice that they have matched out or they've swapped out with these new robotic, trick dice. Putting those in place at all the tables. And as they get everybody in place, we have a nice conversation where Willie Bank and Danny Ocean are negotiating the return of the whales. Ocean had taken all of the whales out of the Bank Casino during the soft launch, and now he's negotiating what's it going to take to bring these whales back so they gamble at the Bank Casino. And that's what this sequence sets up. What do you like about this sequence?
It is I think it's just kind of Soderbergh at his best. It's a fun way to kind of kick this sequence off. You get some really interesting style that Soderbergh chooses with the split screens. Sometimes it's split screens, but the same shot is playing on multiple frames within the split screens. It just feels kind of alive and fresh and invigorating. It's kind of a fun way to kind of kick this part of the story off when we really get into our heist.
I absolutely. And this is again, it's a sequence. These little montage sequences are best in class Soderbergh, right? This is what he does. This is why I'm able to forgive, the silliness that in other movies, in lesser movies, I think I would be much harsher on, because the presentation is so classy. It is so technically smart. It is so it's so crafty and well crafted. The colors are amazing. The reds are so red and the blues are so blue, and all of the contrasts are so sharp. And there's so much fantastic movement and kineticism. It feels like a real sort of spot of energy, an island of energy right in the middle of the film. And we get this conversation that is it's not one of the best, one of the wittiest bits of dialogue in here, but it is it's a fun conversation seeing this standoff between Clooney and Pacino, and I like that. I like the reverse angle. I like the sort of silhouette with this giant sumo match going on in the background, again highlighting all the deep reds and golds. And we get them talking to one another about, what's your percentage take? If I bring these whales back, what do I get? And I really like that bit.
Yeah, it works. I think in context of it all being just another part of the ploy, I think they play it off well enough. And actually, Pacino, we haven't really said much about him, but I mean, he's an actor who can be really over the top sometimes. And generally, even when he is over the top, I still really like him because he's just, really kind of mesmerizing as the way that he performs on screen. But here, even as kind of a big character, I actually felt like he's still relatively kind of controlled it enough where I fully just bought him as this character. I was really impressed with Pacino throughout the entire film.
He was very subdued. I agree with you. There were pieces where you expect the Pacino shriek, you expect him to come completely off kilter, and he never really does. The weirdest he gets, I think, is on TV, right? It's when we're back in Paymer's room, and we're looking at the in-house channel on television, and you see Pacino saying, "Maybe you'll get lucky and break the bank," with his fingers crossed. He's very strange there.
Yes.
It totally works. So
yeah, even when he's getting
anyway.
like really fired up when he's locked in the basement in the thing, like it still doesn't feel like the over the top crazy Pacino that you see like when he's really exploding in The Godfather or something. It really controlled. I really enjoyed him.
What'd you think of Clooney? Did he, here and in the movie?
Largely, I still like him. I mean, he's a very likable actor, and I've always liked him. I do feel like it still feels written, like largely when they're all talking with each other, it feels written. I think weirdly, I didn't feel it as much with this film of the three films. Like this film felt less of that scripted dialogue sort of stuff. And so I ended up kind of, I think most of the time, I think when we get to like the airport scene at the end, I still felt like it was a little bit written, but for the most part, I actually felt like they did a pretty good job with kind of, cleaning that up a little bit. Unfortunately, they just went down kind of an absurdist road, but I think as far as an actor who can carry these sorts of films off, I think he's great. It's funny talking about Bruce Willis last week and how he was originally Danny Ocean. It does make me kind of picture him leading the charge for this trilogy. And I really struggle with him as somebody who could successfully do it. I think Clooney is really a great choice for something like this.
I totally agree. I think he's actually great. And all the parts that you say are written because I feel like they're so natural. Those words have lost all meaning to me. I really love those bits. The Oprah bits, oh God, I just love it. I love it so much. So much.
I'm glad you do.
How about Bernie?
I'm glad you do.
Bernie.
Yeah.
Tell me about
great. This was sadly one of his last roles. He died at the age of 50, August 9th, 2008. A little bit after this film came out. And, he was great in the franchise. Just one of those faces that I always enjoyed, particularly on this one. He was given, it felt like a little bit more meat. I know the last film he was on a different project, so largely was locked up. So maybe it's just nice having him back because he's always a great addition.
Totally agree. As is Elliot Gould. I enjoyed Elliot Gould, even though we have Gould here distracted by heart issues for a lot of the film. In this sequence, we get him back in the saddle a little bit.
It made me wonder if I couldn't find anything saying it, but it did make me wonder if he had his own project that he was working on that left him in bed for the duration of, or for the big chunk of this project.
Right. I was wondering that too. It felt like, knowing what we know about how they schedule these things, that he was sidelined a little bit. Anyhow, we get the Malloys in here. We get Livingston. We get the amazing Yen, and of course Ellen Barkin. Anybody else stand out that you want to talk about that we haven't already mentioned?
I think that's the team. I think they all effectively return, and I think they all do great work as these characters. I think largely the thing that impressed me the most in this particular film was just seeing Pacino feel like Pacino, but still somebody totally different.
Peter Andrews,
yes,
Soderbergh is back behind the camera now. This is his last feature shot on film.
Shot at least what I read, it shot entirely on film. I don't know if that is just that means that he shot something else with some film. I don't know. But
he's not very good at keeping promises that include last in them.
He isn't. That is absolutely true. But I mean, we do know Soderbergh is very much a fan of kind of the digital world and everything. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's just given up film entirely and is just focusing on all the digital tools now. But I will say, I love the way he plays with colors here, natural lighting sometimes, playing with silhouettes at times. The way that some of the shots that he does are kind of oneers, where the whole thing is just a single shot. I mean, he does a lot of playing, not so much in this, but in this, I do really love how he fluidly creates the fun of this grand opening.
Yeah, totally. And so much of that credit then goes to his work with Stephen Mirioni. Again, I just, you already mentioned the use of split screen, but it's such a brilliant thing because in this sequence, we get them using split screen, as you say, different crops of the same shot, which is super funky, but also using it to show us different angles of the same shot and different angles of different locations at the same time. So using split screen in all of its different compositions to help tell the story and move this montage forward. I think it just adds to that sort of that momentum and keeps us super engaged. I think it's fantastic. And David Holmes is back for number 3, and he's so good.
Honestly, it's like the pairing of Soderbergh, Mirioni, and Holmes in this trilogy. Again, I don't always like these films. It's not my favorite trilogy. But I think what all of these guys are doing with this franchise is always something special.
It gives it an identity, right? When
Absolutely.
you think of these movies, like the color and the image and the movement and the sound, and it's so good. And we should say not just the score, but the soundtrack. I mean, using Sinatra's This Town at the end of this film is inspired.
Oh, it's a perfect song to throw in at the end. I was so excited to hear that. And I know that references to Sinatra, I mean, Soderbergh had really been trying to avoid a lot of that through this franchise. There have been times when, there was like I can't remember in the first film where they were. I think it was outside of the club where Pitt was teaching the kids to play gambling or to play poker. And there was a big painting, like a mural on the wall of Sinatra. And he very deliberately chose to not shoot that in the frame. Mm-hmm. And that was something very consistent that he was always avoiding, which is interesting because this film, it really feels like, hey, this is our last chance. Maybe we should mention the fact that, Sinatra, did this film called Ocean's 11, and this is all a remake and spin-offs of that original story. So it's kind of funny that he finally kind of caved. I don't know if he caved in or just is like, let's do it.
Yeah, I think it was great. It's a great way to wrap up the trilogy. It got a lot of heart.
Yeah,
this was an original script. It was not shoehorned in, and I think that's something that you can feel.
I don't know anything about the script other than Brian Kopelman and David Levian wrote it, but I couldn't find any tidbits about them working on it or when they came to start digging in or anything. But yeah, as far as I can tell, it's original script for the trilogy.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Again.
Daggers. Oh, jeez. All right. Yeah, Soderbergh's gotten some, we've already been heaping praise upon him, but he's gotten some praise from outside sources too. New York Times had some nice things to say.
Yeah, Manola Dargis, in her review of the film, said, playing inside the box and out, Soderbergh has learned to go against the grain while also going with the flow. In Ocean's 13, he proves that in spades by using color like Kandinsky and hanging a funny mustache on Mr. Clooney's luscious mug, having become a genius of the system he so often resists.
He read that and retired once.
I'm out. But this goes to what we keep saying about Soderbergh. You like this franchise more than I do. But I think largely we are both fans of Soderbergh and what he's doing here. And I think that is what makes him a director worth watching. Even when it's something that's not one of my favorite films, I always find him a really interesting filmmaker. And I love that he's trying new things.
we got some other casts that we haven't talked about specifically. I do want to bring up Andy Garcia back as Terry Benedict, and I love Andy Garcia. He was a highlight of the first movie. I had trouble with him in the second movie. I felt like it was confused. Does he work for you here?
I think it's a stretch that the logic to kind of connect him into this, but that is actually one of the elements that I do buy. Like, in context of the way that these stories have been flowing, I end up buying that he would be fine going along with this.
This again works for me. It bounced back. I didn't like it in the last movie, but it works for me here. And it does tie into an element of silliness that I feel like I have to bring up because I forgot. It was a bit that was ultimately forgettable, and that's most telling. Vincent Cassel is back as Francois Toulour in a wildly underwritten twist at the end that is ultimately, to my eye, pointless.
It's pointless, and it's frustrating because you do get a hint at the end of Ocean's 12 that Toulour, the Night Fox, is kind of following these guys and is going to be involved in 13 somehow. Unfortunately, it does feel very anemic the way he ends up getting written in. And that is another frustration I have with the film is I felt like they could have done something really interesting with that and made him foil their plan a little bit, give us a nice end to the second act where it feels like, oh, there's no way they're going to be able to pull this off, only to see them kind of find a way out of it. And you just don't get that. It's just all smooth sailing. That's why it's frustrating. It's like, it's all smooth sailing.
It's sloppy and it's inefficient and it is convoluted for the sake of being convoluted. Like, I just don't get why they have to just throw in half parts in a movie that otherwise is so, to me, strong. So that's it. What else do we have? You find some other trivia you want to share?
Just a few little bits.
You gotta talk about the nose, man.
Well, we've talked about Terry Gilliam on the show before, and of course he directed Matt Damon in The Brothers Grimm a few years before this. And I guess that the reason the whole fake nose bit came to be is because Terry Gilliam wanted Matt Damon to wear a fake nose in that film, but the studio vetoed it. And so they threw that in as an in-joke here to that whole situation. So kind of funny.
Yeah, kind of funny.
Yeah. The other funny bit...
And Basher shows up as Fender Rhodes, fictional stuntman Fender Rhodes.
Yeah, one, which of course the name is guitar related. Yeah. But his persona is really kind of in either an homage or parody, depending on how you view it, of Evel Knievel. And what's really funny is that Bob Einstein, who plays Linus's dad and playing that fake FBI agent, he was actually played. Do you remember the show or the movie Super Dave?
Oh, totally.
He was Super Dave, which I did not remember at all until I saw this little note. So totally cracked me up that there's that little bit in here as well.
And if you're not watching Curb Your Enthusiasm this season, I don't know. I don't know what's up. As he's aged, he's gotten just a lot louder. I don't know what's going on with him. His part, maybe it's just working with Larry David. But if you're not watching Curb Your Enthusiasm and you want to see just a ridiculously dysfunctional relationship between older men, Bob Einstein in that show is absolutely hysterical. Do you know he was older brother of Albert Brooks?
Like a real older brother?
Yeah.
Oh, because Albert's real name is Einstein, isn't it?
Yeah.
I had forgotten.
Isn't that awesome?
I had no idea.
It's pretty good.
Very interesting.
Pretty good. Yeah. How did it do in award season, Andrew?
Well, it wasn't really an award film, much like its predecessor. This film did get one win, though.
You don't have to say it like you're like stifling a laugh. You don't have to say it like that.
Like I'm chuckling a little bit on the inside.
Would you stop? Would you give it a chance, man?
Unfortunately.
Sadly.
Unfortunately.
Yes, there you go.
It only had one win, but it did get 5 other nominations. The win that it did get was at everybody's favorite, the People's Choice Awards, where it won for favorite on-screen matchup with Pitt and
I can't
Clooney.
believe you just said that the People's Choice Awards was everybody's favorite. Did you intend to do that?
I did, right. It was air quotes.
So good.
Did you hear those?
That was effortless. God. Sorry.
the losses. At the BET Awards, Don Cheadle was nominated for Best Actor for this and Talk to Me, both of which he did that year. But he lost to Denzel Washington for The Great Debaters and American Gangster. The Costume Design Guild Awards nominated this film's lovely costume designer, Louise Frogley, for her work in the Excellence in Contemporary Film category, but she lost to the film Blades of Glory, which I guess I'd say is contemporary. Yeah. It's very garish with its costumes.
Yeah.
And then, just under the People's Choice Awards, Pete, it's Teen Choice Awards. It was nominated for Choice Movie Comedy, but lost to Knocked Up. It was nominated for Choice Movie Chemistry, but lost to The Pursuit of Happiness. And it was nominated for Choice Movie Villain, but lost to Bill Nye in Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. I want to know which teens are going out and watching Knocked Up and The Pursuit of Happiness.
I'd very much like to know that. I don't know those teens.
I don't either.
Oh, well. How'd it do in the box office?
Soderbergh's final film in his trilogy was back to the $85 million for its budget, perhaps because of the cooler reception of the previous entry. When adjusted for today's dollars, it's actually the cheapest entry, coming in at $98.6 million. The franchise shifted to a summer release, opening June 8, 2007, opposite Hostel Part 2 and Surf's Up, plus the limited release of a film we've talked about on the show before, La Vie en Rose. The film easily took the number one slot for opening weekend and went on to make $117.1 million domestically and $194.6 million internationally, giving it an adjusted gross of $361.6 million. The film landed with an adjusted profit per finished minute of $2.3 million, making it the least profitable of the bunch, but still a better return on the investment since it cost less than number 2.
Well, I'm shedding a single tear, but at least it was profitable.
Hey, if nothing else, it's giving them a chance to make another one.
There you go. There you go. Andy, I think it's time for us to rank it.
Let's do it.
Head over to flickchart.com/thenextreel to see our list, or you can just swipe over in your show notes, tap on Flickchart. It'll take you right to this movie, which you can add to your own collection and see how it stacks up against ours.
First up, Ocean's 13 or Star Trek Beyond. Star Trek for me.
Star Trek.
Ocean's 13 or The Host.
Ocean's 13. No, The Host. I couldn't say it with a straight face.
I'm saying Ocean's 13.
You are?
Yeah. I have so many issues with The Host.
I know you do. See, I really, really like both of these movies. Ugh. Can I do rock, paper, scissors to myself?
I'll do it for you. You pick the host and we'll do it.
Okay, I'll be the host. All right, here we go.
There you go. 1, 2, 3.
Paper.
Rock.
Okay. All right, good. That's fine.
Ocean's 13 or Giant.
Ocean's 13. God, are we there now? Wow.
Ocean's 13 or Star Trek Insurrection. I will say Star Trek. Oh, wait.
Insurrection?
No.
I'm Ocean's 13.
I'll say Oceans.
Yeah.
As much as I like the skin, the face, and all that fun stuff. I love those aliens in that film.
Yeah.
Ocean's 13 or Clute. I will say Clute for sure.
I'll say Clute, too.
Ocean's 13 or Spies. Oh, little Fritz Lang.
Ocean's 13.
I'm going to say Spies.
Here we go.
1, 2, 3.
Paper.
Scissors. Sorry.
I win some, I lose some.
Ocean's 13 or Detour. Little film noir. I'm going to say Detour.
Detour.
Ocean's 13 or The Untouchables. Oh, we've been talking quite a bit about Brian De Palma over on our Patreon with their Patreons on Discord.
I would watch Ocean's 13 first.
I like The Untouchables, but I had more problems with it this time. And I feel like they're going to still be there. I'm going to say Ocean's 13. I'm surprising myself with that one. Wow. Well, there it is. Ocean's 13 landed at 290 on our chart out of 360.
Something is wrong with that, I think. Because the movies that it paired for us here were very difficult. This movie should be higher. And I think, doesn't that mean, like, where is Ocean's 12 on our list? Do you remember?
Ocean's 11 came in at 75. Ocean's 12, 226. Ocean's 13, 290.
Yeah, see, that's a problem.
So you're disappointed with one of those rankings, and I'm disappointed with one of those rankings. Everything's fine.
They should be reversed.
I agree.
We both
Let's
lose.
reverse 11 and 12, and then everything is perfect.
Andy, oh, God, I regret this series more than any other we've done.
Oh, I love it.
This-
It's so fun getting so divisive with you.
Oh my God. Okay, so look, here's the deal. On mine, 11 came in at 32.
Wow.
12 came in at 441, and 13 came in at 102. According to the algorithm for me, this should be a 4.5-star movie. It's not, but it's where the AI says it should be. How did it go for you?
Well, what are you giving it? Or are you not telling me yet?
I'm not telling you yet. I want to hear your ranking.
Mine came in at 1223 out of 4,000. I hit that magic 4,000 finally.
Oh yeah.
Which puts it at 69%. So I think Ocean's 12 was at 1,000. Ocean's 11 was at like 1,035, and Ocean's 13 is at 1223. So they're all in a pretty safe spot. We're close to each other.
Well, I'm a solid 4-star on this one. I feel like there, and it was 4.5. It's a solid 4 now. It's falling because of I just some of the silliness with the computer, the silliness with that. So the silliness weighted it down for me this time.
Well, I'm at a 3-star and a like. So
okay,
average 3.5.
that actually seems much more positive than I expected.
Like I said, just because it's my least favorite of the trilogy doesn't mean I think it's a bad film. It's still fun and still light. I mean, I still enjoy this series. I just have issues with it. But I mean, they're all in the top half of my flick chart. So I think that you're still being too hard on me for my problems.
Oh, Ocean 13? Yeah, it's a 5-star. I had a lot of quibbles. All right. There you have it. Where are we going from here?
Well, as we've alluded to, the series does continue now. It's been popular enough, and now we've got a new director. We've got a new cast. It's all female, and it's going to be the female gang, Ocean's 8, directed by Gary Ross, that just came out last week, actually. So,
yeah, last week. Well, as we're recording this, it was last week.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. It'll be a fun one to check out and see kind of a new direction for the series.
And you've seen it now, right?
I have seen it.
You have seen it. I think we've both seen it now. I'm very much looking forward to talking to you about this movie next week. Old Gary Ross, he totally screws up the logos. I didn't buy it until I watched the logo sequences side by side. First failings in the open 5 seconds. I can't believe he messed with the logos.
I wasn't going to say that until next week, but
it's a spoiler alert.
It is a spoiler alert. The
violated.
logos that Soderbergh does so brilliantly through the franchise get completely ruined. What does that say about the film, folks?
You'll have to tune in to see.
Well, if you want to hear more of us, but you can't wait until next week's show, you can head on over to patreon.com/thenextreel. You can get access to our exclusive members-only weekend show there, the Saturday Matinee. We talk about all sorts of things. Movie news, we pick trailers, we have our head-to-head weekly challenge where we put together lists of movies related in some way to the movie we're discussing that week. The options for this particular film are going to be interesting to see. So yeah, lots of goodies over there also on Patreon. So check it out. Patreon.com/thenextreel.
You can learn more about us at thenextreel.com. Subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast app or follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Next Reel.
The Next Reel couldn't happen without the hard work of Steven Smart, who runs our Instagram, Ben Lott, running everything over on Twitter, and of course thanks to Eli Catlin, who graciously allows us to use his song Ragtime Instrumental as the theme to the show. You can find out more about Eli on his SoundCloud page.
When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Amazon giveth, Andy.
As Amazon always doeth.
I went with a 1 star, and I found the canonical greatness in Smokey the Wonder Lizard, who I think you will find some affinity with.
I just want to say, Smokey the Wonder Lizard, you already have my heart for picking that name.
It says overly
Smokey the Wonder Lizard.
Smokey says,
"What a new pet."
I was trying to do this all straight face. I was trying to do it all straight face and
Smokey
make
the Wonder Lizard.
the funny. It was supposed to be how straight we were able to keep it, and that's all gone.
Oh. Smokey the Wonder Lizard.
It was great. Smokey the Wonder Lizard says,
Don't say that name again.
okay. Overly done, flashy, and no substance, says Smokey the Wonder Lizard. Famous actors and some famous old actors get together to go to Las Vegas. Fun for them. Awful film for us. Let's see. Weak storyline, bad dialogue, Vegas, and let's see. Oh, yeah. More Vegas. Yuck. And disconnected, disjointed, and lacks cohesion. Awful. Simply awful. Time to retire, Ocean. Ouch. Smokey.
Oh, well, I have one star that's not as good as Smokey's because it's not written by Smokey the Wonder Lizard. Oh, mine is by Robert Myers, who says, "What a stinker!" Actually, I should say there's about 10 exclamation points. It's like, "What a stinker!" It started out slow and then fizzled out altogether. It was a real bore. Don't recommend Ocean 13 until it hits the bargain bin at Walmart. Then I would have to think about it. So there you go.
I just like you howling. That was good. If you're interested,
I have to go back because somebody actually commented on this, having found it helpful. They said, "Nice review. Any chance you are from Pittsburgh?" I love that.
That's good.
Finding love in the Amazon comments.
Thanks, Amazon.
It's hard to believe that we've been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
You're telling me producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our originals page when shopping for books and movies we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great conversations.
I was so excited for our big Star Trek film franchise series this season. All those movies adapted from Gene Roddenberry's original 1960s TV show.
As a huge fan, I know that you geeked out over analyzing the adaptations.
Absolutely. From the motion picture to the Kelvin timeline films, seeing the Enterprise crews on the big screen was a dream come true.
Our list of source material isn't just all books and plays. We have the original series in our list of source material. You can rent the episodes to watch and enjoy and support the show in the process.
For our Millennium Trilogy series, we covered films adapted from the original books that launched Lisbeth Salander, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Girl Who Played with Fire, and The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest.
As much as I love Fincher's version, the original Swedish versions are the way to go. We also did our Die Hard series in Season 7.
I can't believe Die Hard and Die Hard 2 were adaptations. Two of the greatest action movies ever.
Well, one of them at least. The other is awfully fun, though. We revisited the classic Mary Poppins for our 1960s movie musical series. A spoonful of sugar always helps the medicine go down.
Old Boy was intense for our Park Chan-wook Vengeance trilogy, and East of Eden and Giant were highlights of our James Dean series.
And a fun time travel mind bender with Predestination to cap things off.
Find all the books behind these adaptations and more at thenextreel.com/originals.
Dive into the source material for your favorite movies. Check it out today, thenextreel.com/originals.